Welcome to Crafty Hints. As always, I am so thankful to have you here today. We have a very special theme to the DIYs, and that's the reason for the season. Let's get crafty. Oh my goodness, can you imagine riding on a donkey, 9 months pregnant, ready to give birth? Okay, so we're going to go to our first DIY. I took a Woodslice and then I took some wood coffee stirrers and I'm cutting those down. I'm going to make a manger on this Woodslice. I got those coffee stirrers off Amazon. Gosh, I've been using them for a couple of years. They come in so handy. They're thinner than popsicle sticks and I think that they look great. So first I'm going to lay one down and then I'm going to just cut the other popsicle stick or coffee stir to sit on each side of the other one. That way it kind of looks like it, it's a full crossbars and it doesn't raise up off of the Woodslice. The Woodslice is also a pack that I got off of Amazon. Had, I don't know, like 20 in the package or so. If you're interested, I always include the Amazon things that I get down below. There's a link to my Amazon store, I guess, but I usually just link them below in case you want, just to see one item. All right, so I'm just splitting that and kind of showing you. Now, when I did the other one, I accidentally split it, so I had to just cut another one. All right, so now I'll just glue these in place. And I ended up making 2 baby Jesuses. This is the first one I made, but I thought it stuck out too much on this ornament. So I'm going to have to incorporate him into another DIY. And for the straw, you could use raffia. I used part of that hula skirt that I've been cutting on for, gosh, so many projects. So if you have that. Okay, next I just took some of that burlap scrap ribbon and I just rolled it up. And now I'm going to take another piece. And I'm just going to roll that little scrap piece around that. And just keep rolling it, and that'll make baby Jesus's body. And now I'm going to do a half bead for the baby's head, and now I'm just wrapping around him. Just gonna swaddle him. And just keep wrapping it around until it looks like a baby to you. Position it. This does have the wire edging, so it does help to kind of bend and mold this around a little bit. And then, a little bit of hot glue always helps. But with burlap ribbon, squeezing that, it will come through. And if it's still pretty hot, that can get your fingers. So be careful of that. But I think this sits a little bit better. I'm just going to put a dab of glue here and squish it down just a little bit. So the baby sits just a little bit better in the manger. As I was saying, can you imagine having to then give birth to your baby in a stable? Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine. So we're going to get the baby in there. We're going to give him a little bit more straw to go around him. And I took another, I think I actually did use a popsicle stick to make the bottom of the manger. All right, just a little bit more of that. I just want to kind of squeeze it together and snip it a little bit and make this so that it looks right wrapped around him. So we'll just glue that in place. And once we get the extra little straw bits, like I said, we'll put a popsicle stick over the top of it and that'll just hold it all in place. But I think you just kind of do it till you feel happy with it, that everything's in its right spot. And then I decided that these needed to get a little bit of antique wax. Usually I'll use the antique wax with a wet wipe, rub it on, rub it off. But I decided I was good with it just going right on there. And I was just very sparing with it and put it on the legs as well. All right, so just get that positioned right and give it some glue. And since it's sitting on top of everything, you may need to go back in and just do a little bit more glue underneath to secure it in place. You don't want it, wobbly there. But that's about it. I took an old hanger off of, I think it was one of the sleds, and strung that through. And then took the other side. I'm just going to put them side by side with the little plastic parts on there and give it a little bit of glue and put those together. Isn't that precious? Of a rustic take on it, I think he turns out beautiful. I found this sign at the Dollar Tree and decided to take it apart, and it wasn't glued together very well. It wasn't centered or anything. So I ended up taking the back off, and then I also took the front off. Just being very careful with that X-Acto knife. And then I peeled off the back of this, and I still ended up using this as the back of the sign, but then I can cover it with paper. But I wanted to make sure I have a nice smooth back. Well, paper that I'm going to cover. And I measured that, and it was like 11¼ inches. And so, when I was popping that off, it popped this right here. So I'm using a little bit of Gorilla gel, it's like a super glue, but it's Gorilla's version. And I like it because it does take a moment for it to set, and then it sets well. I'm using some Waverly chalk paint. This color is truffle. And I'm just going to give this all a once over. So I did all of it that way. I made this printable just in Canva. And it's just a nativity scene. I put, just a box around it. Very simple. You can find any nativity scene that you like online. And then I printed on resume paper because it's a little bit of an ivory color. And this is the extra strength craft bond glue. It isn't just a regular glue stick. I found regular glue sticks over time start to lift, and I want this to last. So crafty hint here too, also just set it on top of your board when you're going to glue this down. And then a little bit in the center as well. If you do have one of those Mod Podge rollers, this would be a good spot to do that also. Instead of having to rub your hands across this, that would be a good spot. And you can see that I also have a little bit of room on each side. Some of that paper I trimmed off. I'm just going to come back in and we'll cover those in a moment. Just going to glue this top back on first. As you can see, I did the outside. I probably should have done the inside of the frame as well. So if I were to do this again, I would do that so it's a little bit more cohesive even. And here you could also use that Gorilla Glue, but I gave it just the tiniest amount so that it wouldn't raise the frame at all. And now we're just going to line this up. And this is when I decided, okay, you can kind of see it. Even though the wood sits on top of those spots, you could almost see it just a little bit. So I thought to be safe, I'll just cover those edges. And we're gluing that on. Like I said, I'll come back with some craft paper or some cardstock and just cover up the back. If you have, that 12 by 12 cardstock, that'll be perfect. And there it is. Didn't that turn out pretty? This beautiful theme is part of a playlist which will be linked below. Our host is Amanda from 6 Kids and a Glue Gun. Co-host is Brenda from Rustic and Lace DIY. Everyone in the playlist will have the reason for the season in their videos. I found part of the passage of Luke 2 online, and I just copied and pasted that into Canva and just manipulated that around in a circle a bit. I knew I didn't want the very top of it, so that'll be cut off. But I just am trying to match it up on this wood circle. I got those wood circles. They're under $2 at Walmart for like a pack of 6. So once I got that lined up, I'm just going to go back in with that craft stick and press it down. Then I'll go back in after I get the bottom and, do the rest of it. And I apologize. I added another light and it about whites out my screen. I am so sorry. I had one little spot of my table that was just a little bit darker, so I added some light and whoo, I had to adjust this a bit to try and tone it down. So I do apologize that this is even brighter than normal. Okay, now I'll set that aside and let it dry for a moment after I make sure that I don't have any loose edges. Now I'm using, this is bigger than a popsicle stick. It's the next size up. And I'm just going to trim part of that off to make the top of the ornament. So I just kept trimming that with the X-Acto knife back and forth a bit. And I just trimmed that a little bit to make it straight. And now I'm going in with a gold paint pen. If you have some gold paint or silver, I just thought the gold went better with the ivory colored paper. And so I'm just going to hold that. You got to kind of find something to hold it, and went around the edges, and I'll do the back of it so that, no part of it is shown. Now I like to take the sides off with an emery board, a file, and just go around the edges. You could use sandpaper, but I found this just makes it so quick and easy, and it gets right to the edge. If you haven't tried this trick, try it out. Or if you have another trick, let me know. I'm always up for another trick. I think crafty hints are fun and we should all continue to share them. All right, and there's the verse. If you are new here, I do hope that you'll let me know down below that you're visiting or that you've subscribed and how you found me. I'd love to hear that. And to those of you returning, thank you so much. I appreciate each of you so very much. Okay, and I apologize, that little spot there, it cut out, or my battery died as I was trimming my greenery and I didn't see it. So I just trimmed down some greenery, added some of those berries, and then I got that gold cording in the gift area, the Christmas gift area of Walmart for like 98 cents. I bought some gold and silver. And just gluing that in place. And now just double checking if you need to, trim down any of that greenery or anything. I then took the paint pen and went along the edges of the ornament. I thought that this would go nicely with the top of the ornament. And it just gave it a little bit more of a finished look. That edge just had that wood tone and it just looked just a little bit unfinished. So you could decide, if you wanted to go, maybe you wanted to paint this, maybe you want to paint the back and the sides. I think that paint pens are super handy though. These are just acrylic ones that I found on Amazon as well. All right, so I'll just finish this up a bit. I'm not going to make you sit and watch me fine tune that. But as I was finishing that up, I decided that, I should put the year on the back. So, when I give this to someone, I'm going to put this on top of a gift. They'll know exactly when they got this. So this would be easy to make a bunch of gift topper ornaments. I'll show it now on my tree. I found this nativity set at the Dollar Tree. I know that Hobby Lobby has some similar. Most craft stores do. And so this has the 3 wise men, and then it has Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus, and then the stable. So I decided to paint these all black. This is Waverly's chalk paint and ink. I love that, in one coat, you completely get it covered. And I went in every little piece that I could. I didn't want any wood showing at all. So I did front, back, sides, you name it. If it had, a wood tone to it, I was covering it in black. Then I got this 5x7 picture frame, and I'm just popping out all of the center. And I pulled out the tabs as well. I'll set that glass aside for another project. And now I'm going to do the same. I'm going to paint all of this frame. So front, back, inside, sides. Here's the back of it. Now I'm going to position them all back in there, and they fit really tightly. So I didn't need to glue them at all. I like it has the little grooves here. And so I just positioned them all the way I wanted them. And then I also grabbed some tumbling tower blocks. As you can see, they're right there, and I've already painted them black. What I want to do is fit this right in that groove of the picture frame so that we can frame this beautiful nativity set. Then I'm going to take a couple of the tumbling tower blocks, and I'm going to position them to help brace it. So it's kind of trying to figure this out. I don't want it to rock at all. Do I need it underneath? Do I need it on the sides? How do I want to do this? So I decided I needed more tumbling tower blocks. So I think you'll need a total of 6. So I'm going to do 2 back underneath there, and then I come back in and I glue 2 at the very edge of it as well, so that when it sits down, it will be able to sit level. But I wanted to start back under the frame and support that first. And again, I wanted to make sure I got every little part so nothing showed that was wood. So even if this was it laid down or anything, you wouldn't see it. And then when you're done, I would go back in with a clear matte spray. Okay, I took this tea light and I pulled the little frame or the little flame off. If you go down to the base of it and kind of squeeze it, it has these little prongs. Oh my goodness, if you're still watching here with me, please give me a thumbs up. And I do hope you'll subscribe and become part of our friends and family. If you hit that bell, it's going to notify you when I upload a new video. Okay, so I'm just trying to hold on to this while I paint the tea light as well. I know, I'm crazy with this black, but you'll see why. I just want this all to be a beautiful silhouette. We don't have anything standing out, and that way if you see this from the side or any angle, it's going to look beautiful. Okay, more tumbling tower blocks, and I painted the back of the tea light. So everything is that black, and that ink is just such a beautiful pigment. That and the crimson are two of my favorites. Okay, so this is that Gorilla gel, super gluish, and I'm going to do a stripe down, and then I'm going to do another one, leaving some space in between them. So that way I get that good permanent hold. It's got that great Gorilla Glue hold. And then I'm going to use some hot glue in the middle to immediately, hold that in place. And I'm setting this upside down. I'm sorry, I'm just a little bit out of frame, but I'm going to scoot it over for you in just a second. There we go. So hold that in place. You could put the switch, closest to the frame if you wanted. I ended up putting it facing out. I guess I'm not positive which way would be easier. I would still brace it with your hand just a little bit when you turn it on or off. Even though I'm going to put some tumbling tower blocks on there, I'm using some of that Gorilla super glue. And we're going to just put this on each side so it braces it. And then I went in, after it was in place, there's a tiny little triangle gap there on each side where they meet. And I filled that in with hot glue also. Just some extra security. And I think this is the first time I've used a super glue and I didn't get any on my fingers. I was kind of proud. And there's that light. So I was debating whether I'd put the flame back on it or not. I ended up putting it back on. Tell me which way you do it. I wanted to kind of be the star. And this is with it real dimly lit. I think it's beautiful. I really am interested. Which one was your favorite? All right, as always, thank you so much for being here. Here's a couple other videos you might enjoy. Take a little bit of time for you to craft and have a blessed day. Don't forget to visit the playlist.